All right, buddy. It's about to go down. Um, all right, Recliner Sports Reporters. Welcome to our first ever episode of our new podcast, Keep the Change podcast. Introducing our newest Recliner Sports Reporter, Ravi Purdy, all the way out in Cleveland, Ohio. Ravi, how we doing, buddy?
What's up, Mac? It's going good, man. Aside from Kansas just letting me down, not covering the spread there, but it's an exciting game.
Dude, talk about one of the biggest upsets already. I feel like that's college basketball for you, though, isn't it? Just like upset cities like during this time. Like I feel like constantly, like over the last, I feel like the last 2 years, any team that gets up to like one or two, like instantly gets upset like the next week, like barely
Yep.
hold it on.
All those other teams, it's their championship game. They're just getting hyped up for it, just looking for a chance to knock off the top guy.
Yeah, it's just like don't get comfortable up there because it's gonna be not spent very long there. Um, so awesome. So yeah, so Robbie, how's Cleveland going, man? Any how's vacation going for no more Browns games?
Well, it's disappointing, but sadly at this point, I'm used to not watching any Browns games at this point in the year.
You guys got a new OC though today?
Defensive coordinator, we got
Defensive, okay.
got Jim Schwartz. Can't complain at all about that. It's a proven guy. He's respected in the league. He's been around for a long time.
And he's got
Likes to
freaking
blitz.
and he's
So
got a
I'm
great
excited about
defense.
that. I'm thinking I got a buddy that's an Eagles fan and loves Schwartz. He's saying that Miles Garrett will have a career year next year, sack wise. Said
And
he likes to mix it up and get those guys involved. So I think Miles is going to be especially excited about that.
dude, Miles Garrett is such a force, man. I will admit the Browns defense, like player wise, you guys have so many studs. So, I mean, if as long as the defensive coordinator has at least half a brain, right, with schemes and getting them in the right positions, your guys' defense and that's like year after year, all the time, very consistent on defense and assignment sound. So, if you can just get a coach that can just put these athletes in the right spots, you guys could be like what the 49ers did this year, holding teams to
Yeah.
only 17 points a game.
I'm not liking the 5% chance Jadeveon Clowney gave to come back to Cleveland, especially after getting sent home there at the end of the year. But
Yeah, that's
like what I saw on Alex Wright, he's a young, raw athlete, and I mean, the guy's 6'4" and just lanky. He just has long arms. He's quick.
yeah,
I'm excited to see him lined up across from Garrett for the next few
yeah,
years.
that was kind of a awkward situation Clowney kind of put everyone in.
Yeah,
With and like he's a don't get me wrong, he's a great player. He's always been a great player. I think everyone was excited to watch him come out of college. I don't know if necessarily he's had like as big as numbers as everyone thought he was going to have, but he's still been like pretty relevant every year. But yeah, the kind of the way that all kind of panned out, it didn't seem right. And it seemed like he was more out of frustration than I think anything else. But
yeah.
um, I
I
mean,
think that was. I mean, he wasn't the only Browns defensive player to express
yeah,
frustration last year during the season or over the last 2 to 3 years since Joe Woods had been in Cleveland.
right.
He has just ran a very vanilla scheme that I mean with athletes you have to give them something to get excited about.
Yeah. And I feel
And
like if you don't have that, yeah, as an athlete, you're like, what am I? What I want to go play for someone who does. And with being
yeah,
with his talent, he can go anywhere and instantly make an impact. So, but yeah, I mean, I know, as a Bengals fan, I know we're rivals, but I know this for me. I always just love to see our division do well, except for the Ravens. Um, every other team in our division, I'd love, except for the Ravens. But even if if this would have
I
went
can't say
the
about the Steelers. I won't go
yeah.
that far. I like you guys. I
Uh,
can get down with the
um,
Ravens, the Steelers, but
all right, that's a fun question though. Where would you rank? All right, so Browns is one, Bengals is two. Where would you put Steelers and Ravens in?
4-4.
4-4, not even just like
They're both at the bottom.
down there. No, I just love seeing our division do well because again, it just shows how like tough. It kind of reminds me of like the OAC, right? Like you had your rivals and stuff, and you wanted to beat Mount, but at the end of the day, you wanted to see Mount, get the national championship because it just solidified that you were playing tough competition. So,
Yep.
you always want to see the division do well. All right, man. Well, speaking of football, what a so I wrote my blog on this one, but a wild start to the wild card weekend. I thought all the games were competitive up until that very, very disappointing finish over in the Tampa Bay and Dallas game. But
Yep.
our first game we had was Seahawks 49ers. This game was close up until the fourth quarter. Seahawks ended up losing 23-41. 49ers sealed the deal there, kind of just showing again why their defense is one of the top in the leagues. But from my point of view watching this game, I thought it was close all the way up until that fourth quarter when the 49ers offense with all their weapons kind of just took away and their defense kind of stepped up. But what was kind of your take on the game?
It's just hard to contain that many weapons
Yeah.
all game long. I mean, San Francisco's offense it's fun.
Yeah.
It'd be every quarterback's dream,
Yeah.
and
And them
I think it's
acquiring
awesome too.
CMAC
Seeing
was, yeah, that was
Brock
one of the
Purdy,
craziest
great
moves,
last name by the way.
Yeah.
He's killing it this year. I mean, since he came in after being Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, has done nothing but go out there and just produce. And in that offense, all you got to do is just take what they give you. Just get the ball in the athlete's hands. I mean, across the board, you got so many guys that you can throw it to, hand the ball off, and
Yeah.
you just can't. There's no defense that can keep up with that consistently all game long. They're
No,
gonna.
and Christian McCaffrey has been just really, I think, almost reinvented. He's always been good, but I feel like his last couple of years in Carolina, I know he's had some injuries, but it feels like they were almost holding him back. And I mean, his first run I took his like over, I think like the low over, it was like 59 yards, I think is what I ended up getting him at. He hit that on that first run. And that was just like, and then, again, like you were saying, the weapons, I mean, C-Mac had a touchdown. Devo had a touchdown. Elijah Mitchell had a touchdown. Brock Purdy had a touchdown. Brandon AU should have had a touchdown. It went right off his helmet. Like, it's just like you look at, like you said, they're all getting the ball, and Purdy is doing a great job of running that offense the way that it needs to be run. And it's kind of just shows that with that scheme, how it's kind of just next guy up. As long as someone can make smart decisions, not turn the ball over,
Speaking of
that
that
offense
purple
will
team
run.
that we hate,
Yeah,
Trent
exactly.
Dilfer is a Super Bowl winning quarterback by being a great game manager
Yeah,
and just taking what's given, not making mistakes.
not
The
making
Niners
mistakes.
have that type of a defense and that type of running game that if Purdy just keeps doing that, I don't think it's crazy to say that he could be a Super Bowl winning quarterback as a rookie.
He has they I really like the 49ers right now. Out of the NFC. I know my preseason pick was the Packers. But for what I'm seeing now throughout the season, my pre-playoff pick out of all the teams, the 49ers from the NFC has been my top. They're again, offensively they're so dangerous, but everyone forgets like they're got the number one defense. They've held teams to less than 17 points a game this year. Um, they're just filled with so much talent across the board, up to down, from their front seven all the way to their secondary. It's
Their D line is just nasty. They just got a bunch of big, strong, quick athletes that
yeah. And I think you look at that stuff, sometimes it's Will Compton was saying with Bus on the Boys, it's like, teams that play well in December typically have great playoff runs, and these guys have been playing well since November, and that's with Brock Purdy too. So,
yeah,
um, So the 49ers will advance. They're going to go play the Cowboys. They get to be at home. The 49ers do. So the Cowboys got to go to them. That's going to be on Sunday at 6:30 p.m., January 22nd. So that's going to be an exciting matchup.
I like the
I
Niners' chances if that comes down to an extra point.
yeah, I'm liking the I don't know what the I'm not seeing what the line is right now. I'm kind of curious as to what the line's set at now. Let me check that. I'm seeing I'm seeing the Niners as a 4-point favorite. I kind of like them to cover that. Um,
Yeah,
with the
I
under.
see them covering that.
Yeah, with the under too. Um, I see I don't think the Cowboys are going to be as um I don't think the Cowboys are going to be as good as they were offensively against the Bucks,
Yeah,
against the 49ers. I think the 49ers are going to really get after Dak, but
never
that's
know
why
with that though. That's the thing, man.
yeah.
He has those games like the other night where he plays at that top tier of quarterback and he shows it all and it's all there. But then we see the deck that led the NFL in interceptions this year.
Yeah. And
Like,
then again on the other side, the Cowboys and their defense, Michael Parsons, that's why I really think the under I could see this being a really, really low scoring game. All right. The next game was one of the most exciting games. Biasly, I'm gonna say it was the second most exciting game, but it was up there. We had the Chargers versus Jaguars. Jaguars completed a 27-point comeback. Trevor
man,
Lawrence leading the charge to beat the Chargers 31-30. Give me what was your thoughts on that one, bud?
and the biggest thing that jumps out to me in this game is that there was somebody out there that placed a $1.4 million bet
I saw
on
that.
the Chargers when they were
Uh,
up 27-0, only to have a chance to profit a little over $11,200.
oh, that guy
I
is
just really want to know what
hurting.
that guy's feeling like right now. I mean,
That
I don't want to feel like that. Sorry, man, if you're out there.
I don't
But
know.
whew,
I feel so bad for that guy. That guy. But I mean, if you have $1 million to be betting like that, you're
that
probably
was what
doing
I
fine.
said at work
Yeah,
today.
you're probably
The
doing
guy
fine
could
anyways.
probably place that bet again and lose it again and still be all right.
So, I mean, the Chargers, I think, Chargers will be fine. They got a franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert. Um, I think really what that came down to was their coaching needs to do a better job of closing out that. Like you got to be able, you can't just be throwing the ball that much in the second half, stopping the
Yeah,
clock and giving the Jaguars that chance to go back in. And then, Bosa with the stupid penalties at the end of the game, whether it was the refs picking on whatever it was, just you got to like kind of know the situation
yeah,
there. And that's just like, again, I think that comes down to coaching. I think coaching wise, you gotta put your players in a good spot and you gotta understand when they're heated like that and you either gotta get them off the field or reset them and not let them get into positions like that.
I'm
But
almost curious. I want to know how many games over the last 2 years, 3 years that the Chargers have blown a 20+ point lead because it
someone
seems like
said
this has been a regular thing. I'm not a
someone said
Chargers
it
fan.
was
I
like
don't watch every game, but
I was listening to 98.5 up here, the sports radio up here. I think it was something like 15 games they've blown that league over the last like 8 seasons or something like that. That's like terrible numbers. They need to get that fixed. Um, and then I think the Jaguars, it's exciting for Jacksonville and Duval for them to go from
yeah,
one of the
feel good
worst,
for those Jags fans.
yeah,
They
one of
deserve
the,
that.
and just think the only thing they had to do was get rid of Urban Meyer. And now look at them. Right? That's the only thing that really changed about that team.
Yeah,
Like it's
Dougie
essentially,
B's a great coach.
yeah, just couldn't handle the NFL, man. Just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Um,
kickers.
The Jaguars, though, they'll go and face the Chiefs this in Arrowhead, so they definitely have a real big test. And I don't know, I know the Chiefs are way better coached than the Chargers with Andy Reid there, and I know that if the Chiefs have a lead, I've only seen them blow it twice, and that was to the Bengals, who are one of the best second half teams in the league, so that's justifiable. But they usually don't blow leads, so
Yeah, I
that game's
don't
gonna
see that being much of a game.
No, me neither. That game's gonna go on Saturday. That's our first game to kick off the second round weekend. That's gonna be Saturday at 4:30 p.m. In Arrowhead. Good luck to Trevor Lawrence on that one. The next game, another exciting one. Mostly because um I think everyone thought this was going to be a blowout, and I know I did too. Which is why I stayed away from it, because I did think that if there's any coach that could keep it close, it was going to be Mike McDaniel. So I did go with just the over. It was like 43, so that hit like in the first, like the third quarter. But the Dolphins end up losing 31-34. And I think really what it comes down to, again, another coaching error. And Mike McDaniel has been so great at this, but I really do think that 4th and 1, that delay of game, is really what cost them the whole game. Because I think when you look at it, those are two teams that are well coached, and they have high power offenses, especially the Dolphins when they're going. And both defenses, they have injuries and they've been kind of not 100%. And you look at that and you knew it had the potential to be a shootout. And I think it played out kind of exactly how I ended up imagining it. But the Dolphins, hats off to them, hats off to Mike McDaniel. What a great season for his first year as a head coach. But dang, when Josh Allen and those Bills defense, or that offense, when it is operating,
Whew.
dang, that is something special, isn't it?
It's fun to watch. I mean, Gabe Davis is that deep threat. Had him on my fantasy team this year. Talk about a boomer bust guy, but man, he gets you 3 catches for 154 yards and 3 touchdowns. And you never know. Allen's got that big, strong arm. He could just about launch it anywhere on the field. So
Yeah, and I don't. I I know a lot of people are saying, Allen's arms a little wacky, and he did have, I think, his two interceptions in the first half is really what kept this game kind of as close as what it was. Um, but when
uh,
he's on, that man is unstoppable.
so
And it's
I'm I still think that his elbow is a little bit of an issue. That
yeah,
whatever that little elbow tweak he had right before the game, where we played against them in
yep,
Detroit, Cleveland, and Buffalo. I was up at that game, and you could tell he didn't have it.
doesn't have that zip,
All of the short
you know.
throws were off. He's just missing on stuff that he doesn't miss
Yeah,
on. And the only thing I can attribute to that too was that elbow injury. And I mean, he's a tough guy. He's a gamer. He's not
yeah,
gonna want to sit out
right.
because of a little injury if he can play through it and it's not hurting him.
Yeah, and he's a freak of nature. He can play through that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so that then sends the Bills. They're going to be able to host Cincinnati. That's going to be Sunday, the 22nd, and weirdly enough, at 3 p.m. And that makes me wonder if they've made it at 3 p.m. in honor of Damar Hamlin, because that's a weird time, right?
I'm just sitting there thinking I never can remember an NFL game having a 3 p.m. kickoff.
It has to be something with Damar. That's got to be that. I mean, it'd be cool if it is.
Yeah.
If not, it's just a weird time. Why else would you start at 3? This game, uh, a repeat of the game that got canceled, which, again, before that awful injury, it was exactly how everyone knew that game was going to start. And that was just the first, I don't even know if 6 or 7 minutes came off the clock at that point. Um, or maybe there was like 5 minutes left, I think, in the first quarter there. But that game was off. I mean, there was only a Bengals possession, Bills possession, Bengals possession, and they were on their second possession, and it was like already fireworks going off. So
So you could tell that was going to be a fun, high scoring back and forth game. I,
yeah,
I was excited, ready to watch that.
yeah. So definitely, again, hopefully, the Bengals operate as well as they can, but they're gonna have to, because you're gonna have to keep up with that explosive Bills offense. That should be a great game. Next up in the slate from this weekend, we had Giants versus Vikings. Giants got the win at 31-24. Again, I think this is one of those games where the Vikings kept it close, but you could just tell the Giants had control of the game the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense?
I've become a fan of Danny Dimes, the vanilla Pittsburgh. Man, the kid's just fun to watch. I never understood a quarterback out of Duke getting drafted that high. The first few years in the league, it was questionable at best. But late last year and this season, man, he's turned it on. And he's fun to watch. What he had 24, 35, 301 yards,
Yeah,
another 80 or so on the ground.
yeah, he put up some big numbers along with Saquon Barkley too. Those
Yeah.
two were just in rhythm, and even pulling out a little Statue of Liberty trick play too. They just were operating. That's why again, like I know the score's close, but like at no point in there did I think the Giants were out of that. Um,
No. And
uh,
Saquon just being healthy, man,
yeah,
what a difference that makes. And I got to give a quick shout out to my buddy at work, Kane Johnson, because he took a huge risk this year in our fantasy league and drafted not only Christian McCaffrey, but Saquon Barkley.
wow.
And it worked out. Didn't end up winning the league. So I guess it didn't work out that great. But he kind of got hosed on the Bengals Bills game.
Uh,
He would have
oh,
ended thing.
See, my league
So
ended the week before, so I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. But I forgot that definitely had a big implications, especially if you had
I
anyone
think
playing
it
in the
was
game.
he needed 17 points out of like I can't remember if it was Diggs and Chase or Allen and Chase, but I
Oh
know he had
wow.
Jamar and he had one of the big
Oh
players for
wow.
Buffalo. So I mean that 17 points was about a gimme.
Dang, that guy. Sorry for that guy. Sorry,
Yeah.
Chase. You got it next year, buddy. You should give that guy at least a 1-0 like start next year or a bye, automatic playoff berth.
He
Um,
had the trophy last year, so whatever. We'll let
Oh,
Jay.
okay. Well, then he's fine. Um, yeah, I weirdly enough ended up winning our fantasy league. I just had a very great.
Congrats.
I know, right? I've been playing fantasy football for like 12 years now. No, I don't. I think I've only made the playoffs like 3 times. Uh, all my players just had their best weeks on the playoff weeks, and it was just like one right after the other. I think I had my late ad of, so I drafted Cam Akers. He was like my fifth overall pick. Um, did terrible this season, so I dropped him. Replaced him with Kenneth Walker, who was playing great all year.
Mhm.
And then Kenneth Walker, I think, was doubtful, and or no, he had a bye week, so I had to pick up a running back, and Cam Akers was back on the board, and this is when Cam wasn't doing too hot, and I was like, all right, let's take the risk back on him, and then that was like right when he had like a 17-point game, 10-point game, and he fit those like last 4 weeks, and then the game that I won was our championship week, was that game that he got I think 4 touchdowns. That was
Yeah.
our championship game, and it was like talk about like dropped him and then he sealed the deal for me. Fully gave up on that guy. It should be noted though on this Vikings game that the Vikings did have a chance to win it, but Kirk Cousins decided to throw a 3-yard out route on a 4th and 8. I saw a meme that goes by that like Kirk doing an interview that said he threw a 3-yard out in honor of Damar Hamlin, to pay respect to pay respect for him.
Ouch.
Um, but the Giants are going to head to Philly. They got the night game at 8:15. They're going to face the Eagles. That's going to be I think a great matchup. I think the Giants are I think if they operate the way that they did on this past weekend, that I think they're going to give the Eagles a big fit, and I think it's really going to come down to kind of the same situation. I think if they can keep this thing close, it's going to just come down to who has the ball kind of at the end of the game there.
I don't know, man. I've been on the Eagles bandwagon. I've been on the Jalen Hurts bandwagon since he was riding the pine, and they still had that Prince Harry lookalike trying to play quarterback for him. But I I had the Eagles at the beginning of the year was my pick for the NFC, and I flip flop back and forth between them and the Niners now. But I just Jalen Hurts, the more I hear about him stories, the type of leader he is, and the type of workhorse he is, man, it's just hard to bet against people like that.
Yeah,
And
I agree with you there. He has been automatic this season, and again, so dangerous whether he's throwing the ball or he's passing the ball or running the ball. He's got everything you need out of. He's a better Lamar. You know, he can run like Lamar, but he can throw like Joe Burrow. He's a
he
really
led me to
terrific.
a 11-2 record in our work league, and then got hurt in the playoffs. I made the mistake of picking up Carr for a solid like 8 points that week.
Derek, DC. Yeah, where's
Yeah.
Zach? Where's that guy going to end up next year? That's the real question. Um,
Mhm.
lots of teams out there need quarterbacks right now. I bet he ends up at the Jets. Um,
Ooh.
right, right. Doesn't that sound like really
I
fitting?
feel it's Devontae Adams that came to Las Vegas to play with Carr.
See, I think Adams stays. I think Adams gets it, but I think he's definitely going to be upset. I know Stidham's not the guy though for the Raiders, so I don't know who the Raiders. Someone was saying Tom Brady to the Raiders. That would be interesting. Um,
I still, I don't care how many quarterbacks are there. I'll still never rule out Tom Brady to the Niners next year. And pending Tua's long-term health, all that collusion talk in the past with the Dolphins,
yeah, it's
places see making sense for Brady.
Miami. Poor Tua, man. I mean, you can't have that many three concussions this season in a span of 3 months. That's
Yeah,
dangerous right there. I know that ends most people's careers. So
I
you're
feel
right.
bad.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. The Ravens might have to, or the Dolphins might have to make some decisions here. Um, all right.
Ravens
That
have their own decisions they're going to have to make at quarterback this year.
speaking of
'Cause,
which,
I,
uh,
for one, am not fully convinced that Lamar Jackson couldn't have been out there and played that game. And I know that you're happy that he didn't.
oh yeah, I love J.K. Dobbins' tweet after the game that says Lamar was in, we win. Um, that which honestly makes a big difference too on that 3rd and 1. But
Yep.
yeah, we're going now. Our next game, Ravens Bengals. Bengals get the win, 24-17. Talk about just a good old fashioned AFC North hard nosed playoff football game with injuries on both sides, and just talk about just gritty. I mean, there were what the first half. I think each team only had three offensive series each. To have a 10-9 first half with a missed extra point. I know the Ravens touchdown drive, it was 17 plays, 75 yards, 10 minutes on the clock or 10 minutes off the clock. Like, talk about just
Classic
like
AFC football.
AFC North, you know what I'm saying? Just grinding it out. Evan missed a kick in the first half that puts it 10-9. Um, and then, yeah, both teams get the score there in the third quarter. Cincinnati converts a 2-point conversion. Now we have 17-17 game, and you're like, this is like exactly how we drew it up. And then one of the most incredible plays all weekend. And again, I'm not just saying that because I'm a Bengals fan. Anyone
Listen,
can admit that was. I had so many people message me after that play the same text. Wow, like so many, like the same exact text. But yeah, the Cincinnati kid comes up with the ball after Bates and Wilson do a little volleyball action and just swat the ball out of Huntley's hands. And they did a so I don't know if this is true, but someone said that there's actual like a tracking device in the ball, and the ball showed on the field that it was zero point 0.6 feet away from the goal line. So like half a foot away from the goal line. That we're talking inches, man. So
yeah.
but ends up getting it, taking it 98 yards for touchdowns, and then inevitably sealing the deal. There was a 50-50 Hail Mary that fell short, but yeah, man,
Man, I
how
thought
was
Ricochet
how
was
was
about to catch that
yeah,
there.
what was kind of your thoughts on this one, man?
Man, I always, of course, gonna pull for you guys over the Ravens. Gonna support my Ohio brethren, but love it, love the game, but can't help but think the same way J.K. Dobbins did that Lamar Jackson out there, that's a completely different game.
Yes,
He
100%.
changes so much, and I really feel that I don't think the Ravens will let him walk, but I don't know if they're going to give him what he's wanting. I don't see them coming to terms of agreement. He wants all that guaranteed money. This is what I think part of what Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam were doing in giving Deshaun Watson his fully guaranteed contract
Yeah.
was kind of in a way putting the Ravens and you guys here coming up in a bad position where your quarterbacks are now going to be expecting more than that.
Yep. Yeah. I think it showed that the Ravens need a great quarterback,
Yep.
which they do have. Um, but it also
Huntley's
proved,
simple. Shout out to Tyler
yeah.
Huntley. He had a
Oh,
great
he,
year for what he did.
wow, and great game. Great game.
Yep.
And it just also proves defensively the Ravens still have it, man. Like they're still great defensively. They got to Joe. Uh,
That's
they sacked him
Roquan
four
Smith going
times.
to that midseason was just that was a huge pickup. He's a stud.
Yeah,
And
he was all over the ball, all over the field.
he may be the best linebacker they've had since Ray Lewis. And there's been some good ones to go through there.
Yeah, 100%.
But
Um,
he's that caliber.
yeah, and I think, it looks like, offensively the Bengals need to learn how to Joey needs to close out games, but I will admit I'm worried about this game against the Bills. We lost another offensive lineman, and I know like Joe went from being the most sacks quarterback to the last 8 games he was the third least sacked quarterback, and now it was like one game after we've lost the starter the last 3 games, and you can tell that there are some revolving doors around there. There were some plays that just, and like again, the credit to Joe and the Bengals OC to be like, all right, we're gonna run some quick game, but the Bengals are good because of their deep threats. And when you
Yep.
can't give Joe enough time to do those deep threats, teams can start undercutting those short routes, and or that's where batted balls come into play because the ball is coming out of lower trajectory. So I don't think the Bengals can be successful just doing that. I think that they can manage the game in that world because that's how I do think what they were lacking at the beginning of the year was we weren't doing enough quick routes. We were only going for deep balls, and that got us into some trouble. But we need to be able to throw the ball deep. That's why you drafted Jamar. That's why you have the receiver and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. You need to be able to attack deep. And if you can't do that because your offensive line is not giving them enough time, we're you're playing with a handicap when you shouldn't be because you have 3 of the top receivers in the league. So it'll definitely be interesting going there. The Bengals will head to Buffalo. They're going to be facing Josh Allen and the Bills Mafia. So that'll be a wild game for sure.
That'd be a fun
Um,
one too.
all right. The last game of the night, because we're running a little short on time here now, but it's all good. We had again talk about a disappointing finish to this weekend, especially this game had all the opportunities to be one of the best games of the week. Um, but then it honestly played out exactly how it should have played out. I mean, you look at it. One, I didn't realize the Cowboys were going to Tampa Bay. So you had a 13-4 team traveling to a 8-9 team in a playoff game. And I think everyone thought Tom was going to be able to pull it off, but I mean, really at the end of the day, what it looked like was Tom and Evans just weren't on the same page. And a lot of his receivers, they just weren't on the same page. And it wasn't necessarily like Tom had a bad game. It just things weren't going right and they were off.
I think
And
a lot of that comes down to it. He just was behind a makeshift line of guys that he didn't trust. And
yep,
it looked like as soon as he got that ball, he was trying to throw it before he even took a step back. I mean,
yep.
it is what it is, but he did look like he had a chance out there at that point.
No, he did not.
Bills
Yeah.
in that type of deep threat, they don't have a line. They didn't have a line in that game that was able to hold up long enough to let him get downfield at all.
Against a very good, very talented Dallas Cowboys defense led by Michael Parsons there. Um,
Might have had one of their best games of the year in that
yeah,
game too. They were
100%.
running around with their hair on fire.
Oh, they were Michael Parsons such a talented player. Dak did he had an impressive night. he along with finding the end zone himself, he ends up throwing for 305 and 4 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, I know a guy who has had a lot of interceptions there in the last half of the season, but dang, he looked good.
Oh yeah, he did. I mean, that's like we were talking earlier. You never know what you're going to get with Dak.
Yeah.
You could be getting a top 7, 8 quarterback, or he could come out there and lay an egg, complete 50% of his passes, and throw 2 picks. But when he's on, they're a Super Bowl caliber team at that point.
100%. And I think again, it starts with their defense. And again, I think it was kind of the similar thing we are saying about Brock Purdy. It's like you don't even need Dak to be the best guy on the field. You just need him to manage the game. And I
Yeah.
think if he can figure that out, I mean, that's why they lost last year. He didn't manage the game well. I mean, he's the one who
Mhm.
ran the ball and then couldn't clock, saying that's just bad quarterback management. And that's on the quarterback there. And so if he can just manage the game and just not turn the ball over, the Cowboys have every bit of chance here on beating San Francisco. They really do because they have the same amount of weapons on offense as the 49ers do. And I think defensively, both teams have really strong defenses. But I think it
I
all is going
think
to come down to quarterback play.
I think Dallas is a big thing for them. They just got to establish the run
Yeah.
game. And at this point, even being a Buckeyes fan, I feel like you almost have to say Tony and Zeke back there instead of Zeke and Tony because and Pollard's the number one guy at this point.
Dude, Tony's
He's
explosive,
more,
man.
he's more consistent, but still having both those guys back there,
Second
they did
second
what
best running
Browns
back
fans
duo.
wanted Stefanski to do with Chubb and Hunt.
I'll say second best running back duo though, because I will say the Browns, Chubb and Hunt is the first ranked first for
Yeah,
sure.
even though
Those-
we didn't utilize them, I feel like Hunt was the biggest disappointment for us this year. But you know,
He said he
wish
wants to
him the
be
best.
he said he
Cleveland
wants
kid,
to
we
be a
always
Brown
knew
guy.
he was.
So I think as long as you guys can find a way to keep Hunt, which I think he wants to be there, you guys are going to be looking good. All right, well the Cowboys are going to go and try to keep their playoff run going. Again, I think I'm looking at I like the under on that game. Um, I think San Fran can cover, but uh, I think the under has more value. Um, if you're looking for a bet on that game, I don't know what the under is listed at right now, but I would say if it's anything close to the 40s, I could see that thing um, being being right on the money at 40. Um, all right, well that was our weekend wrap up. Keep an eye out for more of our episodes. We have football for the next couple weeks, but as we keep going out through the year, we're going to be having basketball, hockey, and spring training's right around the corner here. And I know again, Cincinnati doesn't really have any of the other teams, so I know as a Cleveland fan, I know you're excited to start talking about the other sports too, because I think the Cavs have a real shot here. I think they're a dangerous team, and you gotta love the Guardians, man.
Oh,
What a America's favorite baseball team for sure.
still hard for me to call him that, but hopefully Donovan Mitchell can get healed up soon. Tweaked his groin last night.
It's all right.
He's
Still
getting him
early.
healthy.
Still early. Still early. A lot of basketball to be played. As long as they can make the playoffs, I think they got a chance. All right.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate the support. Give us a follow for all of our sports picks. Go ahead, check us out on Twitter at recliner_report. Um, if you're looking to get some good merch, check out our merch store, the Recliner Sports Report merch store.
Man,
And as
that's sharp.
always, keep the change.